Change laptops. Josh, Donnie, iPhone, I don't know who was on iPhone. Get ready, Terry, whenever you are.
It looks like, is Neil there? I can't see him the way the camera is.
I am here.
All right.
Let me see if I can move the camera.
Okay, let's go ahead and begin the Colorado City Metropolitan District Board of Directors study session. Time is 6:03, and there is a quorum present. Mr. District Manager.
Yes, sir. All right, I got Neil and Bob in the frame. I'm kind of not. We're good. First on the agenda, we had the CAAC resolution reviewed by chair, comments and for the committee. I did put in the packet. The only one that I got a response from was Neil, that looked at what some of the revisions. I did talk to Larry on some of it, and we've worked together. I had Carolyn review kind of the revisions to make sure that we're not stepping out of bounds. I have that, but she didn't get it back to me until late today. So you don't have it in your packet. It's something that we can look at next meeting to go forward with it. I met with Larry We're setting up a meeting with the CCAAC for Thursday. We're going to do it out at the pavilion because we have a couple of them that don't want to be in a room. So we'll do it at the pavilion, which will give us 6 feet apart and outdoors to do that. You have 3, I believe, let me look at my agenda here. Sorry, it's been a hectic week. Review, there is 4 properties that I gave Larry last week to look at, to review, along with myself, as to what needs for building. One is 4419 West Jefferson. One is lot 118, Unit 5, Colorado and Salida. It was a garage. 3158 Armstrong, which is one that was a return. It has more information and zoning approval on it. The other one was Corona Verde Boulevard, which we looked at, being that it was under the 1,800 square foot, while she put in a basement now, which under roof gives her almost 2,000 square foot of living space. I did talk to Regional Building and Zoning on it as to their expectations as what is under roof. They said any living space under roof they tax, so it would be the finished basement would be considered living space, which would give her the 1,800 square foot.
So in your discussion of the stuff we talked about, was there general consensus? Was there some additional areas that any of you came up with that we should be talking about?
One of the things that was brought up was the one on 4419 West Jefferson. I talked to Neil on it.
No, I'm sorry, Jim, I'm sorry. I didn't mean the properties themselves. I meant the resolution dealing with the CCACC. I wasn't on the buildings yet. I was on the waiting for Carolyn to get back to us. But if there was anything that came up with your guys' discussion on it.
Yeah, Bob with his hand up.
Okay. Bob?
I noticed in there you want to give power to the manager for approvals. You know, the previous board, which includes 2 current board members, refused to appoint committees to do just that. The board here wanted all control sent back to the board. Now the board's flip-flopped and wants to send it back to somebody else to make decisions. That's a problem. On top of that, how are you going to do the accounting? One of the things that the lawyers said in the initial document was to keep all funds and monies and everything under a separate account, which is why we set up a totally separate banking account. So we could keep it separate, no commingling of funds or anything like that. Now you want to commingle wages into the mix. How you propose getting around the commingling?
Okay. Other comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think that we should table this until after the meeting that the CCAAC volunteers have. Larry Berg has some ideas and has some suggestions as to how this should be set up so that it's workable for them. And I think we should kind of see what they have in mind as well. We're not authorizing them, but we're delegating them with some responsibilities, and we have to consider what they have to say about how it's going to work.
Totally agree. Yeah, as soon as Jim said that the opinion from Carolyn wasn't here, I was assuming we'd table it, but I was also curious if there was any major issues that came up in just visitation that we could all be thinking about. But no, I definitely think we need to table the motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is Larry. As I understand it, the information that went to the attorney was 3 different scenarios. And the question was, which ones can we use? And what we may end up with is exactly what was in the original resolution. Or we may end up with exactly what we had before the old architectural committee was dissolved. Or we may end up with the architectural committee, advisory committee being underneath Jim, and which was a scenario that was presented. So nobody knows.
Right.
It's all just being brainstormed by the attorney at the moment to see what we can do. Then we can make a choice.
Okay. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
You have Mr. Ellis here. He has a comment.
All right.
I've heard a lot of concern about what this board and CCACC is going to do and what they are doing, but I haven't seen any concern for the public at large. That you're having things to approve, and there's been no meetings from the people that are told that, hey, we're building a house, you want to come in and look at what's being presented, and none of that is happening, and that's the whole purpose of this. And there are gazillions of covenant violations out there that aren't being addressed.
Well, that's what we're trying to do. Is we're working on it and getting it.
Two and a half years is long enough.
Well, I've been here a year.
I understand.
We're working
this has
on
been
it.
going on for almost 5 years.
And we're getting closer to that point, and hopefully we can get to that point. Within the last week, I have 7 complaints. I have 4 of them that I've turned over. I've got 3 other ones that I'm working on right now to get to the board to look at, and we're trying to get all of them together. And that's been the hardest thing. Is it's been hard with the COVID going on, or COVID-19, and getting a meeting together to say, okay, we need to get our structure set up as a committee first to see who's going to be the head, which so far Larry's kind of stepped into that position at this point, but it's up to the committee themselves as who they want to make that. There's been some concerns as liability-wise, as okay, in the scenarios that you brought to my attention, that having the board, there is no appeals process.
Correct.
And that's what we're looking at too with this is, can we get an appeals process where the committee, if they feel that we need to go through this, okay, if the committee sends out a letter to address the complaint and the owner feels that they're being picked on or whatever, okay, they have 15 or 20 days to come back to the board and say, with a written saying, hey, I appeal what CCAAC is doing. We want to have a hearing or whatever to show what needs to be done. To give them that opportunity to come back and let the board have that final decision and say, we're done. So it gives them that appeal process, which right now you don't have that within what we put in there.
Yeah, and I think we all agree. We all agree that we want to get this done, and I'm glad we're having an actual meeting on Thursday. That'll be
we're looking at
step
that
in the right direction.
within the committee to get a hierarchy and get our form set up as to what we have and where we're at and where we want to go with it to set it up.
You don't need a form if you get a complaint by most of the Colorado registration. You don't have to keep the paper.
Right. And that's what we're looking at, is how we can set it up that we do have that follow through, and we did this and we did this and we tried this, and now we're at that point where it's going to have to come to the board and say, okay, how do you want to go through it?
Other comments? I think we can move on to number 2.
Okay, you don't want to discuss any of the properties or anything that way?
It's not part of the,
I think we've got a place for that in the regular meeting,
Okay.
correct? Because
Okay,
I don't know that a study session applies to an application for an
okay,
approval
okay.
when we have things in place. So I believe we can
Number 2,
not consider that a study item. Is there anybody in disagreement with that? Okay, number 2.
Number 2, resolution 10/2020. I told you last week that we needed to have some kind of a declaration if we want to look for federal funds and relief. This was even advised by Mr. Weisman in that West did it, excuse me, and going forward. I did set up the resolutions. One is 2020, declaring a local disaster and how it affects us. The other one is Resolution 11/2020, which is what was state mandated for employees as to pay, and if somebody did have contact with somebody as a carrier of COVID, that how we handle it. So that's those 2 resolutions.
Okay, comments on either resolution?
Yeah, Mr. President, I have a comment.
Go ahead, Greg.
Okay, so Jim, Resolution 11/2020,
Yes.
establishing the paid time off for employees.
Yes.
You basically made that resolution using the state mandated.
Yes.
Okay, that was my question.
And we have a posted, we had to post it and everything before, when we had it, which we didn't have it within a resolution, but it was posted under your Equal Labor Act laws and stuff.
when was this passed by the state?
It was put into effect when they went into emergency. That was back in March.
So it's not been passed by the state.
It's not been passed by us.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak.
Yes, sir.
I don't think this 2020 is, in my opinion, constitutional, but I'm going to leave it at that.
All right. Anything else? Okay, Jim, number 4.
Okay, number 4, quotes on mower to be paid from CTF. We discussed last meeting that Josh was in need of a mower. We said we had state CTF funds that were there. About, I think we had like 65,000 left in it. If Yvonne was here, but she had a doctor's appointment, I don't know whether she joined by phone or not. But you have 5 bids there that Josh pulled together. Josh, you want to explain any of it?
I don't think so. I just wanted to put the information out there so everybody knew what we were working with.
Okay. Thoughts or comments?
You have Kubota came in at 10,000, like the one we bought last year, but it don't have the mulcher on it. It's a commercial mower. It's heavy duty. It was 10,500, which is $500 more than what we paid last year for it, right? And without the attachments. We also have the Husqvarna. It is also a commercial mower that it has a 3 years, has the same engine, 31 horsepower, which is more than the Kubota, and it's at $10,247. Whereas the other ones, the Fisher and the John Deere, you're looking at over 11,000 for them. So there was four options there. That the last one, the Grasshopper, Josh was unable to get a quote from them. They never called him back on it.
All right.
Bob has his hand up.
Mr. Chairman,
Go
I
ahead,
call for
Bob.
a point of order. Can you not see me when I raise my hand?
Bob, I'm not looking at the screen. I'm making notes. You know, when we're in the regular meetings, you just always elbow me, so I know you want to say something. But just say, Mr. Chairman, I do have my ears tuned, and I'll recognize you. No, I'm making notes about the cost of the mowers and other things that people have mentioned.
I waited in between while you weren't waiting.
Sir.
No, this is getting ridiculous on this. If you're going to put cameras up, let's pay attention to them. Now, I have a few things to say about the funds, not necessarily the mower. We know the mower's already been checked. I would assume that they'll do it similar to last year, but we haven't got to that point yet. But the funds came before the mower. Now, he said that we were talking about CTF funds. What I asked at the last meeting was if you were going to apply for CTF funds. Now, what funds? He says we've got CTF funds. What were the funds dedicated for? If they were dedicated to this playground or anything else, we've already spent the money once for a tractor that had nothing to do with the parks. So where are the funds coming from?
We have money still in the CTF fund for the playground. It is still there. We get additional funds from lottery that come in from the state to us that don't go through Pueblo County. This is where I'm looking at getting the funds from. Every year on a quarterly basis, like I said, I would be able to explain it more if Yvonne was here. She knows more in the line of exactly how much we get per quarter from lotto funds and things like that. That they're not as big as going to get a grant or whatever from the county in their CTF funds, because they get a lot more. We get a portion.
How much money do we have in the funds that aren't accounted for to golf and other things?
We have $65,000 in that CTF fund, which I'm looking at probably $45,000, which is for the playground.
So you've got
25,000
that aren't accounted towards the playground or the golf course.
That aren't
either one.
Accounted for it.
What about the money that was taken for the tractor for the playground?
I don't know where that was. That was before my time, Bob. The playground was before my time.
If we can find the funds that are not accounted for, then I have no problem with using them. But if these funds are accounted for, we cannot be pulling them from somebody else's project for the mower.
Agreed, and I think he answered that. But yes, they can't be budgeted to something else already. I wholeheartedly agree.
I believe that was answered, though, was it not?
Yes, it was.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, sir.
A question to Josh. Josh, which of these mowers would best suit you?
Out of the 5 quoted, I would like to purchase the Husqvarna.
Why?
All of these mowers, I mean, as you can see, they're pretty similar as far as engine, transmission. The Husqvarna has, for the price, has the best warranty, and I don't have to haul it to Pueblo if it does need warranty work.
Okay,
who's going to work on it here?
Excuse me, Bob, I believe I have the floor. Also, Josh, what is the quote for the lift kit from Rustler? What is that?
Last year when we purchased our mower, we got it's called a maintenance lift kit. It's basically a jack on the front that lifts the mower up. Sorry, it's not necessary, but it's a little convenient to have on that mower that we bought last year.
Is it worth $500?
No, they're not. They're not charging us $500 for that.
Okay. Okay, thank
They
you.
Kubota sold us this mower last year for $10,553, the exact same price it is this year. Last year we got the mower, a mulching kit, and the jack, the maintenance lift, for that price. This year they tried charging us more, so I got them down to this price, and they're throwing that lift in for free.
I see. Okay.
So it's the exact same price as the one we bought last year.
With less attachments.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
You may.
Josh, the other thing that I've got a question, I agree with you. Husqvarna, the warranty, and the fact that you don't have to drive it to town, I think that's awesome. But one thing that I would like to know is, I would like to see us maybe try to keep the lawnmowers in the same brand and type. And the reason why I say that is, parts-wise, I would assume it would be much easier if you've got a line of lawnmowers that are all the same. You can stock the same air filters, because are you or are you not doing most of the maintenance yourself on them, other than warranty work?
We are, and all of the parts as far as the engine goes should be the same on both these mowers, because they're both Kawasaki mowers.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
the blades will not be the same, but the one of the things that concerns me is last year Josh said he wasn't impressed with the Husqvarna, and now all of a sudden he's flip-flopped. We purchased the Kawasaki based on the Kubota based on his recommendation last year, and now we want to change. What's wrong with the Kubota?
There's nothing wrong with the Kubota, and you'd have to refresh my memory, because I don't ever remember saying anything bad about the Husqvarna. I have no problem with the Husqvarna, and I wanted to buy it last year, and I was overruled. The Kubota is a good unit. When we purchased it last year, we did not get the extra parts that we ordered with it. Sorry, excuse me. We had to wait for those parts to be delivered, and we had to install those parts ourselves. This year I called, and we're supposed to be getting a bigger discount by buying our second unit from them, and they're trying to charge us more. I do not like the customer service, period. The mower itself, we have no issues with.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Any other comments?
I have, Yvonne, you're on the phone.
Okay.
If I can ask her a question.
Sure. Yvonne, would you unmute so you could be asked a question?
Yvonne,
Go ahead.
Yvonne, with our CTF funds, we get so much a quarter from the state, right?
That's correct. We get anywhere.
Well, you're getting feedback.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Anywhere from like 12 to 13,000 a year from Colorado Lottery.
And right now, that would still leave 45,000 in CT. Well, we set aside 45,000 for the playground itself, right?
That's correct.
So it wouldn't hurt us to use this to go, and it isn't dedicated, that money that is extra in there, it is not dedicated to anything else.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yvonne. We've never had a call from the Grand Canyon before. Any other thoughts, comments, questions about the mower? If not, let's move on to the next item.
Okay, the next was number 5. It's a Porphy-Bus quote and main electric quote for the water plant. I know we had another electrician. They never sent us a bid on it. The Porphy-Bus, like I said, was $48,780, and the pulling of wiring would be $32.80. So you're looking at about $52,000 there to get it. Last Thursday, was it, Gary? We had Porphy-Bus went down, which Thursday or Friday, and this has put us in this downfall with where we're at today in our water. Our plant worked intermittently all weekend with it totally shutting down on Monday, and we worked on it all day yesterday to get it up and running. There was a multitude of problems. It wasn't just a Porphy-Bus, it was flagellant and different things that added up to this point. So that's where we're at with it, with our water at this point.
Okay, comments, thoughts? Yes, Bob.
I've got some serious questions here. We keep being told it's Porphy-Bus, Porphy-Bus, Porphy-Bus. Now we're hearing coagulant and other things. We ordered water filters because we were told it was the water filters. Then we were told that the water filters weren't working correctly, and they brought somebody out to inspect them. The water filters were correct. It was valves. How do we know we're fixing the right thing? This is a problem. It's just ongoing.
It is an ongoing problem, Bob. It's 10 years of non-maintenance, 10 years of letting shit go, that we're at that point now where everything is part of the problem, and you're working through the problem to get to that point. Yeah, Porphy-Bus, it is a problem because our wiring on it is brittle. It's breaking at unions, things like that. You bump a wire as you're walking in between skids, it creates a problem. Or if we get water in it, it shuts the plant down. Right now, our plant is on a series where if one goes down, they all go down. With the Porphy-Bus net, it will individualize. It puts them on a parallel where they turn and go. Right now, our neutralization skid, that was the next phase of our plant that I was going to bring to you. We're at that point right now. The neutralization of when we backflush and treat our filters to get them to where they need to be, to clean them after. Because on a CIP, you do it every 2 days, which is what we should be doing, which Gary's doing it by hand. Harry showed up yesterday when we were working through all of this problem, and he sees what a liability risk it is with our neutralization skid, in that when they put the plant together, there was a gentleman that didn't like it, so he tore everything out of it. That created this where we're at. I know the gentleman is no longer working with us. I think he was sent down the road because of it. I'm not sure. I don't know. It's a lot of inherited problems that we've got to work through.
What is the plan of getting a working plant? This piecemeal is just all it is piecemeal. What's the plan?
If you go back to last March, when I told you this is why we needed this extra funding to put, you don't remember any of that.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying we don't need just a piece of funding here and a piece of funding there.
Well,
what's the plan of making this whole plant correct?
Well, that's it.
What, you got a 1-year plan, a 10-year plan? What's the plan?
Within this 1-year plan was those 3 things right there, with the maintenance schedule being put into the place. Right now, we can't do deep soaks for our CIPs, which they take an 8-hour shift, that at a minimum, that they go in, they deep soak those filters to break up any slime, whatever, that has built up on them, backflush them 3 or 4 different times in the solution to get it all cleaned out, and then dumped. At this point, we don't have the manpower and stuff to do that. We'd have to hire probably another guy to do it, to assist in, because you do not want all the chemicals that we are handling to do that by hand, whereas with that system, which I'm getting a quote from him, he didn't give me a quote on it yet. He's looking to see if he can take our neutralization skid and put it back to the way it was, where it is automated. So that's part of this, is if he can find the parts and locate the parts to do it. It's like with this Porphy bus. It's going to take him probably 2 months to get everything together to come in and put it in.
Can you hear me now, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I was on mute, and I didn't know I was on mute. Yesterday was an eye opener with all the
We can't hear you,
even when he had to add more, chemicals to the plant, hand doing it, the breaker snapped 3 times because of the wiring defects. But then the safety issue is a big issue because you have to get the pH to read right, and you have to do it 3 times for each skid. And I didn't realize that stuff was all ripped out of there 8-10 years ago, and they were doing this manually all this time. And it's just, I mean, if you get the neutralization in there as another part of this process, which is still in that original money that he put in the budget for that $900,000 bond refinance, I think there was $250 in there for this area to upgrade it. And I think after watching it yesterday, you can't tie up 3 men for 2 days out of 8 employees working on a problem that should be self-sufficient every day. And then the soaker thing, that $8 soaker thing, I think is the big element also. It'll save our filters. But the way we're going now, we're just chasing our tails.
I agree with that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I had a discussion with Jim and with Donnie today about kind of the topic of Mr. Cook's concern here as to what's happening on into the future, is to what our options are. What kind of options do we have here? And from what they told me, from what I discerned from that, was that we don't have any options. We need to bring this plant up to standards, up to current conditions, and we need to replace the automation of it. We need to fix the plant, bring it current. If we do that, will it have the capacity to feed us for the next 10 years? And of course, that's a pretty nebulous question because we don't know what's going to happen to residents or water loss or anything. But yes, the general consensus is that it will feed us on into the life of the plant itself if we bring it up to date. I don't think we have an option. Now we do have the money. The only reason not to do it and not to do it now would be if we had to put it off to find the money. We've dedicated that money already, so why are we putting it off?
Understood. Other thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak on the money side of it. I was opposed to borrowing money. That everybody knows that. I'm all for getting the plant up and going, but I'm tired of the piecemeal stuff. I understand that we have to fix things as they come up. That happens. It does in every business out there. And I know we're going to have to fix it. It's just getting irritating that you get something new brought to you just almost every meeting. Now, back to the money, I would suggest that water is the only department that makes money, that it pays for as much of this, if not all of it, before we touch any savings. It's one of the few departments that pays for itself. We don't need to be shifting the money out of water to golf or Parks and Rec or anybody else. Let it pay for its own stuff as needed. If we get in a bind, we can always get into the other monies.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I have Bill raising his hand here, Terry.
Okay.
Well, it sounded to me like the plant is basically met its age limit and needs to be redone or replaced. It would seem logical to me, if that's where we're at, we need to have a project in place that's going to solicit bids and whatever to replace what's necessary to bring that plant up to its current, to the proper codes or whatever it needs to be to produce the water that it's supposed to be producing. Just fixing one part at a time just makes no sense to me.
The big thing about it is I could have came to you with everything, and you would have all really said, nope, we can't do it with the 250,000. Whereas going in steps, where first thing was major importance was our filters. Those were 10 years old. They were at the end of their life and they were used. The next thing is looking at and making sure that we need it before we do. And we started having this problem in September, and yeah, it's slowly. Over the last year, I know Neil asked us, well, what did you do in the past? Well, in the past, we'd call a tech, emergency tech down. It cost us $7,500 every time. We've gotten to the point with Donnie's help and Gary and all of us working together and being able to resolve issues without paying that $7,500 every time we need it out of operating.
Let me respond. I'm not talking about that. The point is, it needs to be done, and none of us in it, unless somebody knows that, are water engineers or water plant engineers. So it should be done properly, and it should be a project that's put together to bring it up to what it needs to be. When we start putting in this part today and that part tomorrow, things change within a couple of weeks sometimes in those processes. I don't think that we're serving ourselves well by piecemealing it. Let's be honest with you.
I agree with you.
We can't truly shut it down and just fix everything all at the same time. We have to keep it working.
I've been around water plants a lot, Gary, and I know how they work.
So see, it's a fine line between being fiscally responsible to the taxpayers and knowing whether a gradual plan or an all-at-once plan is what's necessary. How much money would we need to bring that entire plant up to standards immediately? I mean, not immediately, as quickly as possible.
As quickly as possible. I was looking at right now about 70. It might be about 75,000 by the time we get through with getting the neutralization skid out.
Okay, so, and your feeling is that infrastructure that's older than some of us on the call would be rectified and up to standard, unquote, for $75,000.
I think we could get there.
All right. Other questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just a little bit of response to your question there to clarify. In talking to Jim and Donnie today, I brought up that same thing. Is if we're going to spend this $70,000 and have it last for 2 years, that's not a good investment. How long is it going to last? Are we putting this investment in for 10 years or 2 years or 3 years, whatever? And I was pretty comfortable with their response that it would be at least 10 years. If we're looking at bringing this up to standards to where this plant would be, we'd be able to see at least a life cycle of 10 years on it. Because of that, I think it's a pretty good return on investment. I don't see that we have a reason not to do it.
Right. Any other thoughts for the study session? Now we'll go on to number 6.
Number 6, we have a quote for the biosolids to remove from the sewer plant. I did have the state come down today, and they've been taking readings over the last week because there has been complaints because of the odor in Applewood. I told her what we were looking at doing, and that this is part of getting the quotes to get the stuff hauled out. If you look at the bids, to haul it out is half the price of what it's going to cost us to dump it. To haul out, load up, haul out, everything, we're looking at, the lowest bid was $42.40, and to our dump fees is going to be about $9,000. So you look at about $13,000 to do this. We did have this put in part of our bonding too. That was part of cleaning up the lagoon, which we did that through operations last year by cleaning it, because we got that bid from Vestas for $120,000 to just clean up the lagoon. So we thought we could do it better and get what we need done, which we hooked it back in. So if we did have any overage into the lagoon, we could pump it back into our basins and keep it recirculating if we did have an accident down there, which we're trying to minimize any kind of a situation where we're in with non-compliance or whatever. I know that, when we bought the fan press, there is going to be additional expenses. They were put in, like the polymer, the hauling away we didn't. We thought we would be able to get something going within this time, but with the testing and stuff, it's that long drawn out process that the state takes to get you to their satisfaction as to being able to give it away or use it ourselves. So we're working on different areas and aspects of how to do this. Gary brought in a deal as to how we can minimize the odors coming out of to kill the odor so that we don't have this odor problem in the future. Using carbon dioxide or chlorine dioxide or whatever process, we're looking into that area too as to how can we do that. So there's a lot of things that we're trying to resolve and work forward to getting forward in this process. The money, everything takes money, and that's where we're at. And I don't know what else I can say on it. Donnie, you have anything you want to add to this?
I mean, you covered most everything, Jim. I mean, it just seems like a consensus at this point through multiple topics that some of the board members or public seems to feel like that when there's something proposed, it's a one-stop fix for everything. And all the moving parts involved in the water and sewer departments, that's the furthest thing from it. And we're dealing with a neglect over a long period of time that we're trying to get back on track. And through the water plant and in the sewer plant, we've made strides in doing that by adding this press. And there are costs on the back end of doing that. Now, the permitting process through the state, we don't have a lot of control on what they consider as a reasonable time frame. We deal with it among a lot of things that we have to permit through the state. The backwash basin, some sample stations, a lot of even just simple things. It seems like it's 9 months later you finally get a response, and we're kind of in that with this repurposing of the biosolids with them. In speaking with Dave Lewis, he felt that it was in our best interest with this cease and desist order that if we could make the strides to show them that we are, putting our best foot forward, that it would go a long ways in the cease and desist order, in the permitting process, and everything else that we deal with the state on the sewer plant and the water plant. But they don't drag their feet as much as with districts that are trying to be self-sufficient, and we've got to keep that perception and reality of that we are making progress and showing that we're trying to do things in a better manner and move away from how things were done. And I really feel that if we can resolve this and move forward, Jim and I are working on a plan of how we're going to deal with this in the future. To put it in context, the dump fees are $9,000, and the reason of that number is so high is that's a year's worth of biosolids that were stored, and the state's mandate is that you cannot store them beyond a year. So instead of going forward, we're looking at, we're not going to store a year's worth at a time. We're going to budget to do this on a monthly basis where we're hauling out a 12th, so to speak, of the material monthly and dealing with it in that aspect. So this is clearing the slate for a year's worth of waiting for the permitting process to be finalized, and as well putting some good faith out there that we are, keeping our end of the bargain of maintaining the plant better than it was in the past, as well as trying to take care of the community's concerns with smell. We'll get some numbers put together on those options. But first off, we just got to get this year's worth out of here.
Thank you, Donnie. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Bob.
I'll talk about the finances again. Both water and sewer are our only two moneymakers, and they are enterprises. And I really think that those enterprises should pay their bills. If they get in a bind, then we can fall back to monies that are in the bank. But I think that we should strictly stay within the funds within those enterprises to begin with. We have got nothing else to fall back on. If we use the reserves and then there's a problem, we're really done. I think we should just stay within the budget of what it is making, and I think they can swing their $13,000. They can generally do it in the past because they haven't even put in all their depreciation. So I think we really should stay within the budgets for each one, whether it be the water plant or the sewer plant. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any final comments on the, as part of the study session?
Yeah, Mr. Ellis had a comment.
Go ahead.
When Donnie was talking about permitting, what permits are we waiting on?
Permitting to be either Class A or Class B biosolid that you can use as fertilizer out on your lawn, or
We don't have the equipment for the Class A.
well, that's what we're looking at, is how can we do that adjustment up to do that, or setting out a drying bed that would be more efficient. There's 3 or 4 different options that we're looking at.
Drying beds, if you haven't done there, would cause smell. So I guess the only thing we have would be a furnace type.
Well, or either going through chlorine dioxide as it comes out of the press so that it kills the bacteria and stuff at that point, which you don't have to, then it takes the smell away.
Yeah, but then do you really have a Class A DQ when you use the chemical?
From what I understood about it,
Say again?
We'll have to look into it more.
yeah, it's something that's yeah. We're trying to review everything that we can to.
Well, from my research, the only way you're going to be able to turn it to ADQ and be able to sell it or bag it or whatever is either through the furnace heat system or to age it. And if you're aging it down there, the people down there don't have a cow.
Oh, I know. That's why we're trying to get rid of it now.
Okay.
As we get it.
All right.
Thank you.
Unless there's something else, why we'll close study session at 6:54. Call the regular meeting to order. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
For those who would like to join me, we'll take a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. I'll let the record show that the entire board is present, 2 in person, 3 online. First thing we need is an approval of the agenda. When you've had a moment to look it over, I need a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion to approve the agenda. Could I have a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, I think, on these routine housekeeping matters, unless someone has a no vote, we'll just go by voice. All in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, approval of the minutes from the study session on March 31st, 2020, and the regular meeting of April 28th.
I make a motion, sir, that we approve the minutes of March 31st and also the April 28th board meetings.
It's been moved that those 2 sets of minutes be approved. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Bills payable, financial report. Anything, any questions anybody has on any of that?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have questions. Trying to find all my notes here. Couple of things jumped out.
Hey, go ahead.
It appears we're not shopping as usual.
On what?
There's a number of things I'll get with you later on, but there's a couple of things that jumped out. First off, that jumped out really big was Wagner equipment. I've got backhoe, water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, roads. Now, I understand your breakdown and such. What's the backhoe for?
That was, we had our backhoe breakdown on us on a Friday.
Okay.
We couldn't get a service tech in here. We pulled one in on reserve just in case we had a break during the weekend, which they charged us for 2 days, and we got it back up and running Monday. So that's why you have that charge out.
Okay. So what were you putting it on? You've got wastewater, water treatment, and roads. Which department do you pull it in for?
We pulled it in for all 3.
You can't.
We pulled it in basically for wastewater and water service.
But you included roads. The problem I've got is you've got 2 enterprises and 1 government side. We cannot commingle those.
Okay.
It's been stated in the past.
I can have them pull it out.
So Bob, if I can, the reason this whole thing came across and it's being put into roads is it was very specific in budget meetings, sitting down with you, that we needed to address putting money, aside for road repairs, so on and so forth, depending on which department it came out of. So if there was something that came up over that time where we got to deal with it, it was spread across all 3 departments. In all reality, the emergency services is water and sewer. I have no problem reallocating that just to water and sewer if that's what you feel better about.
Correct. This needs to be broken out. Roads is not part of enterprises. So if you want to break it out like this, instead of putting water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, and roads 3 times, just put the proper department once. There's no problem if you do that. This is commingling when you do it this way. So that's just one of it. Next, I've got $2,512 PEX couplings, adapters, clamps. That's a hell of a lot of PEX couplings. What are we using PEX for?
That's part of our meter project. In our conversions from putting in a stop valve to putting in PEX, which goes into our other valve. So we have shutoffs to put in meters and move forward. Donnie, you want to add any more?
So the 2512, the reason that number is so high is that is the budgeted amount of installed parts across the second half of phase one. So that is all of phase one parts being on hand and ready to be implemented and put in as needed. And there is a little bit of overage in that, but I'd rather have the parts sitting here for the guys to be able to put in the ground rather than having to wait a week to get something in and delaying the project.
I'm assuming that because it was on a MasterCard, it was shopped.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. The next one is LL Johnson, $37,790.
That is part of that CTF from Pueblo. We had the Grounds Master 4500 lawnmower. That's a rough mower. Had the Sand Pro bunker mower, which we ended up going with it, and the tooth rake and the workman that we got, all for what we thought we were going to need a greens mower, which we didn't. So we were able to get 3 other pieces of equipment to match up that we were in need of.
Then why does it not have CTF on here
Because
somewhere
it hasn't,
so that we know what it is
it hasn't
when we
been
see
to
it?
that point. Because we have to pay for it first. We send the paperwork to Pueblo, which then they send us back the check. That's when we make a resolution to take it out of the CTF fund to put it back into.
Can you not put a bracket there so that we know without having to go through this?
We can if we need to.
Okay. I have one more here. I'm going to skip that one. And this one. Again, the shopping, if I look at the standard list from the local supplier, it's clear that we could have got a number of these things at much better rates. We're just not shopping at all. With that, I yield, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any other comments on the financial report or bills payable?
Hey Terry, it's Yvonne. I have a question.
Turn down your volume, Yvonne.
Do what?
Turn down your volume. You're getting down.
Okay.
We can
I
hear
have a question for Mr. Cook.
Yes.
All right.
So can you go back to what you were stating about commingling of funds?
Yes. You've got it in the financials here that the backhoe was for, you broke it up into a line item 3 times. It says water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, and roads. Water treatment plant and wastewater treatment plant are enterprises. Roads are government. We're not supposed to commingle between the government and the enterprise can't commingle against the other enterprise. It's one thing to list them, it's another thing to list them all on the same line.
That's just how our accounting system has us record them. Each one of those line items is tracked on the budget to the enterprise or to the roads fund.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yes.
A question there, Yvonne. Just the verbiage on the report itself, the simple verbiage. Could roads be a separate line?
Go ahead.
talking about the way that it's shown on the report?
Yes.
Yes.
There's a certain character limit for that field. So Kelly usually enters based on what's on the PO.
Okay. I think that's what I think Mr. Cook was getting at. That's probably something we should ask as an operational thing. It doesn't have to be in the meeting now, so we can deal with that later.
Because it's even with him wanting to add CTF next to what that is, I don't know whether we have enough room character-wise to put it on.
Is that correct? Yes, you're correct.
All right, thanks, Lon.
We can try to do that.
Any other comments before we vote on approving, or I need a motion to approve the bills?
One quick question on that road grader. It's listed 3 times, so you paid $700 and something, not 200 and whatever dollars?
Yes.
That is correct, Bob. The total bill, I believe, is $750 and some change, if I recall, for the rental over the weekend, and that includes pickup and delivery of the unit.
And that was just for a standby.
That is correct.
All right, I would entertain a motion to pay the bills.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, and you agree to pay the bills, indicate by saying yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed?
Yes.
You were opposed, Greg?
No, I'm not opposed.
Just
Yeah,
time
just
lag.
time lag.
Jet lag. Motion carries. Operational report. Jim, anything?
Operational reports. I have Holly Dock maintenance side. You have mowed daily on busy days, every other day on or slower. Maintenance sprayed was done, fertilized, growth regulator, wetting agents, teas mowed once a week, being sprayed for broadleaf, now in-house, fairways mowed once to twice per week, pending as needed, rough mowed once per week. The majority of the mowing operation has been done with volunteers. Approximately 232 hours have been volunteered since the beginning of coronavirus shutdown until May 9th. Irrigation front 9 hours, we had 88 hours spent on maintenance, back 9 hours is 12. Of course, equipment, we received our new Toro 4500D. The golf lift is up and in, wired. Front 9 actuator valve is in and working. We have the Sand Pro for the bunkers. It works great. They get it done within 2 hours instead of taking them 8 hours to do with the old one. We've got also a new utility vehicle which will free up one of our carts that they've been using to put back into rentals. As for Parks and Rec, the 2 new electric sites have been completed into the campground. We're also working to clean up the old bathroom building and an old shed that have been pieced together over the years. The bathroom building has been painted and we are working to clean it out the inside. We're exploring options of installing maybe a chlorine operated washer dryer in there. There's been a dramatic increase of use of the lake, which also means the increase of trash. I am working to find a bear-proof trash can option that is reasonably priced. Our summer sports are still on hold, and it looks like we may have to cancel the normal league if social distancing restrictions don't change. I am working on a plan to hold tournaments at our facility for adults and youth if restrictions are lifted. As for the golf shop activities, I have 2019 April rounds was 951. 2020 we went 1,031. 2019 annual revenue was 33,544. For 2020, our April revenue was 35,907. Great weather, warm temperatures have helped us recover nicely this season. We have beaten last year's revenue by $2,363 this month in only 17 days of being open. Again, due to the 15-minute inclement tee times, we have got a lot of overflow from 12 golf courses and have made more on weekends than we would on tournaments at this point right now. We are looking forward to even a better May. Gary, I know you've been busy. I don't think you had anything other than the information right that you have in front of you for what we were looking at for Makova, for the chlorine dioxide for our press.
Makova has a separate chemical that they use. Nalco has the chlorine dioxide.
Oh, okay.
He didn't get back to me yet.
Okay.
It's very expensive.
I know you guys usually like Gary's water report. He's been busy, I know, for the last week, and
days, yeah.
trying to get plants running and keep online. So hopefully by next report we can get his water report for the month as to what we produced, what we used, all of that aspect. Donnie, do you have anything operational?
Yeah, I've got a few things. Start off with the water. Just an update on the meter project. We've got right around 193 meters installed out of the 401 of phase one. So we're running just under 50%, and that is from install dates 4/6 through 5/1. I'll continue to bring progress report on that. We're right on budget with the cost of the meters. The install cost we're running under budget on the install cost right now. I'm hoping to just keep transferring that through as we go. We have hit a couple snags, older pits and older sets in this first phase. So we will have a couple more streets that will be affected in scheduled outages for those. I think we're running right now. We got 8 meters left of that original 193. We're actually going to be 185 minus the 8. We were hoping to do that early this week. Obviously, the issues we've had with the plant has pushed that back. And my guys have already went ahead and surveyed the next phase of phase one, which will be unit 29 is where the group is heading next. So far through the survey, we're not finding a lot of shutdowns necessary, but that is kind of a moving target with old PVC, old copper. We can run the complications, but it looks to be on par with being able to get a good chunk of those done, and then we'll deal with the shutdowns towards the end as we progress through that. Monte Vista will be one that will be affected, and Santa Fe to finalize those 8. So we'll be posting that over the next 24 to 48 hours of what we scheduled to shut down those streets and finalize that. I know Jim has put out a social media report. I believe it's on our website as well. I would just want to mention, just for any public that is tuning in tonight, that the standpipe has been affected, obviously, with this water being off. We are going to hold that off until at least Thursday morning, to where Gary and I can get some adequate water in the system. We understand it's an inconvenience, but that is a part of the first thing that is cut back on. But with what we're seeing progress today, and if that carries through tomorrow, I think Thursday morning potentially we can open that back up to the public. The other items in the water department that we're currently working on, hoping to see, is I know Bob's interested with the backwash piece that will affect the sewer as well. I believe Gary spoke with Josh earlier this week about the permit expecting that at any moment. As soon as that permit hits, we are going to jump on finalizing that and getting that up and running. Something that's going to be coming along, Jim, myself, and Gary are working with this DOVE program mandate that's coming down. We'll hopefully have some options to present to the board this second meeting of the month here, and give you guys our options on what we can do with that. Don't have a lot of detail yet because it's kind of still up in the air on what what they're mandating isn't in question, but the time frame that we have to accomplish it. Down at the sewer plant, the blower that was offline, that new blower has arrived. It is installed. We did test fire it today. Basin 1, we have to finalize a couple things within the basin to bring that blower back online, being that it's been down for the time period that it has been. We're going to address a couple other maintenance items with it prior to firing that back off. But my hope is to have that basin back online and going late this week into early next week. And that's about all I have for my side of the report, if there's any questions.
Mr. Chairman, I have questions.
Okay, Bob?
Can I cover some of these during this update that won't affect the agenda later under old business?
Yes, go ahead.
First off, he's right. I was looking for a update on the backwash. I'm going to scratch that off my list. The next one that I wanted to touch on was the contact time that we had spoke of at the last meeting. Thoughts only at this time, but I understand a little bit about contact time, but I don't understand our system as well because I've not been around all of it. So I was wondering why we can't add, cost is always a factor, but it's just something to talk about at this time, is something like a large holding tank before it's shipped out on certain intervals, say every 30 minutes, the tank drain is about whatever the contact time is, that tank would hold, say, 3 times the amount in case they change contact time on us in the future, which states likes to do, where we could just run all the water into one contact tank, hold it for the, put a timer on it where the pumps kick on and move it every hour, 3 hours, 6 hours, whatever contact time would require under state statutes going forward, instead of just trying to rig it in the meantime, looking at it more as a project that would be ongoing for the life of the plant. Donnie, do you have any thoughts on that? And then I'll also hear from Greg, or Gary, he just mentioned it.
So, yeah, everything you're saying, Bob, is what we are dealing with right now with the state. So we have NALCO engineering involved to make sure that all the state guidelines are met. That's not an option. You can't design it in-house. But what you're saying, in your opinion, of as an option has been presented in expanding our current clear well, which is essentially our storage tank prior to distribution. That tank was put in, it was engineered to the size of the plant at the time and the standards that were set at the time with, I believe, very minimal plans for the future, if you will, or taking into account that the state is going to up or change their protocol on contact time. That being said, the cost involved with a expanded or an expansion of that, I'm waiting on those numbers in. Obviously, that is going to be a much higher cost than what we're looking at right now. I have to agree with you in the aspect that I would prefer to go for the plan that would take us for the long term and beyond. I just don't know if it's financially achievable in the time frame that the state DOVE program is coming into effect. and I'm hoping through some meetings that are coming up with the engineer and I'm hoping the state that we can propose something of that sort where we're looking more long-term and they might extend our time to accomplish that project. If they don't want to extend the time to do it, then we're going to have a plan B, and we're working on plan A and B all at the same time and hope to have that pricing put together and what the state's opinion, that's really going to dictate the time frame on it.
Thank you, Donnie. Mr. Chairman, Gary wanted to speak.
Yeah, I want to add to that. We're looking at probably $10 million for a tank without pumps. Bob, so that you know, we're looking at doing the piping in, which will double our capacity and exceed our CT time and use a lot of the existing plant that's there already. And with the property being vacated, the old golf course, we can utilize some of that space for piping, which will give us a complete contact time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On that point, my next point that's under the same operations report is I've got two notes on this April wastewater treatment. The first one is wastewater plant running at nearly maximum. How are we going, what's our plan to correct this?
That's with our BUP, the beneficial reuse. We will cut 25% out of that plant the minute we start pumping to the golf course pond. All that water can be reutilized, and we are now waiting on the final step with the state. They talked to me yesterday. Everything's been submitted and has a tentative approval to start. So we might be a matter of days or possibly a week or two of being able to do that, and that will take that water away from that plant.
One of the big holdups with that was they used Google Earth to look at that pond. They didn't think the pond held as much water as, and we told them it's a 1 million gallon pond. So that's one of their big concerns.
Well, my last point on this report is the loss of 11 million gallons of water. It looks like we're producing 3 gallons and charging for 1. And the other 2, nobody seems to know where are going. This is wear and tear on our plant. I don't know what the fix is, but it's got to be addressed on a short and long-term plan somehow in the very near future. Thank you.
We're looking at that with the meters in the fact that we actually improved 6% this month on this last building with the proportional meters that we have in. With the completion, every time we get more meters in, the tighter that number's going to be. Everybody's out looking, everybody's out driving around as much as possible to find out if there's a leak and we can get to it and address it.
We've had people in PRV valves wondering, listening to hear if they're singing because is there a big leak someplace or whatever. Driving through areas that, okay, this PRV is open, it is singing. We've driven up and down roads and followed the lines where they've been. It's not surfacing any place. You stop, you listen, you don't hear it, we don't know. But we're slowly trying to track it down.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments on the operations report? Okay, if not, let's move on. Neil, you did such a great job reading last week. Would you mind doing that again?
That's trouble. I will do so, Mr. Chairman. Statement of conduct and demeanor. In order for the business of the board to be conducted in the most effective and expeditious manner, it is necessary that all persons present maintain a demeanor of civility toward the board, staff, and each other. Conduct that appears threatening or aggressive will not be tolerated. Shouting, speaking out of order, or the use of offensive gestures similarly are not acceptable. Such behavior shall constitute the forfeiture of your right to remain in attendance and may, as a point of order brought to the board's attention by council or any board member, including the chairperson, result in your being asked to leave the meeting by the chairperson or, upon your refusal, being escorted out of the meeting by the proper authority.
Thank you, sir. Any citizens input?
Nobody signed up.
All right. I assume no attorney's report, Jim?
No.
All right, let's go into the regular agenda items. Mr. District Manager?
Okay, you have resolution 10/2020 declaring a local disaster. Like you said, this was, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask if there was anyone who would be willing to make that motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make motion to accept resolution 10-2020 declaring a local disaster. I'd read the topic, but I cannot find it in my packet. Thank
All
you.
right. We have a motion to approve resolution 10/2020. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion?
Did you
On the
want me to
agenda?
read the whole thing, Terry?
No, I think just enough of it to make sense of what it is.
Okay, it's a resolution declaring a local disaster within the Colorado City Metropolitan District due to the novel coronavirus COVID-19, and that'd be Colorado City Metro District.
All right. So we have that. It's been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion? On the regular agenda items, we will do it by a voice vote so we can make sure we know how everyone stands. Bob?
Yes.
Neil?
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. You're on mute again, Harry, but I hear it's yes.
Yes.
Greg? Motion carries. Resolution 11/2020, Mr. District
You
Manager.
went off mute and then back on mute, Harry.
I'm okay now?
There you go.
There now.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept resolution 11-2020, a resolution establishing paid time off for employees in response to the novel coronavirus COVID-19 Colorado City Metropolitan District.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Jim, you want to read just enough of that one just
He
to...
He got it all in there that time.
I'm sorry?
I did.
He got it all in there that time.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak.
Go ahead.
Again, I think this is unconstitutional, and I don't think we should pass that, but it's not up to me, it's up to the entire board.
Very good. Any other discussion? Okay, go by voice vote. Neil, you start this time? Neil? How do
Yes,
you vote?
I heard you.
Okay, chair vote.
I abstain.
I'm sorry?
I abstain.
You abstain, okay? Chair votes yes. Harry?
Yes.
Greg?
Yeah, I'm gonna vote yes.
Bob?
No.
Motion carries. Further discussion or action on the mower for rec. Jim,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to purchase the Kubota tractor mower. It fits with our others.
Been moved that we purchase the Kubota. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Does that come with all the attachments at the price that he wants? That's what.
I believe with this and Harry, I believe with this and Harry, it has everything that Josh needs, because we aren't doing a mulching kit or anything with it. It does come with the lift, doesn't it, Josh?
Is there a reason why we're not purchasing the Husqvarna?
Motion is for the Kubota.
Yeah, just,
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
yes, sir.
I agree with Josh. I hope we vote this motion down. Personally, the biggest reason why I say that is customer service to me is a big deal, and I don't have any reason to doubt Josh that customer service is poor through the Kubota dealer here. And if he believes that the Husqvarna service is going to be better, then I would support him on that.
Okay, we have a,
Can I withdraw my motion, my second?
okay.
We can vote on it, Harry.
Okay, let's vote
You
on
don't
it.
have to vote.
No. Mr. Chairman, I have a question for
Just a
Mr.
minute,
Cook.
hold it. We're going crazy here. Any further discussion on the motion on the floor?
Yes, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have a question for Mr. Cook. Why do you feel like the Kubota is better than the Husqvarna?
If you get in a bind, if you got two machines, you can get one of them going when you've got two. Two is one is none.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion? Okay, we will vote on the motion. Chair goes first on this one. I'm just going in order in case you haven't noticed. I vote no. Harry?
No.
Greg?
No.
Bob?
Yes.
And Neil?
No.
The motion does not carry. Reopen the floor if there is a motion on the mower.
I'll make a motion to purchase the Husqvarna mower.
We have a motion to purchase the Husqvarna. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And moved and seconded. Additional discussion. All right, we'll vote on it. Harry, you're first this time
Yes.
on purchasing the Husqvarna. Greg?
Yes.
Bob?
No.
Neil?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Motion carries. Next item of business, Mr. District Manager.
Okay, this is, you have the bid in front of you for the Porky Bus and Main Electric, which comes to the 40 or 50, I gotta look it up, sorry. It will come to 52, almost $53,000 for this portion of it. I also had mentioned that, which isn't in this, to get the plant with the neutralization would be about 75,000. So it's up to you guys if you want to do it all in one shot or go for the Porky Bus, and we can look at when I get the quote for the neutralization skill.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to move forward with Porky Bus at the quoted price, but not with savings. Use it with standard enterprise funds.
One more time, Bob, right at the last you cut out.
I'm sorry, it cut out. The motion is to go forward with the Porky Bus, but with standard enterprise funds, not with savings.
All right, and I am, Jim, that's all part of that bond.
Yeah, that was part of the bond refinance in that 250 that we were looking at it, of paying it out of there.
Okay,
Bob
so we have,
Bob's recommendation is to come out of operational which that was our operational is any water breaks or anything that happened with that through the year or any service calls that we need to do any of that.
Okay, we can cover that in discussion. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the $53,000 expense on the Profit Bus, but to get that $53,000 from operational funds. Did I interpret that correctly, Bob?
Absolutely.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a move and second to allocate $53,000 out of the operational funds for the Profit Bus. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
You may.
Either Donnie or Jim, if you would, please, or Yvonne, or all three. What would be wrong, or is there anything wrong with taking this funds out of operational and leaving the funds in savings for a later date?
This is Yvonne. We need to look at the budget and see if we have that in the budget. If it's not in the budget, which is very tight this year, unless we get another revenue source, we will not have the money to cover that.
Okay.
Where we did have it in the budget as a capital improvement through the bond financing in our special area for it.
Okay.
So yeah, my comment was going to be that, you know, the operational budget was built for operationals, not projects. And I think the criteria of capital project or capital improvement is, this would be to exceed the threshold. The way the budget was built was to have this money, I think Bob keeps calling it a savings. It wasn't even proposed as a savings. It was proposed as an operational and capital project refinance. And so it was proposed, it was passed by the board for this purpose. And it seems like we keep circling back to try and hold this money for something that it wasn't approved for. I understand, I'm all for building a savings, but when you budget something and you propose it in a certain way and it's voted on and it's approved in that manner, and now we're circling back, the frustration and confusion, I really don't want to express at the moment.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'd like to point out that the board did approve holding those funds for when needed. They didn't dedicate to specific projects. We approved the extra, and we said we would hold it until we needed certain projects done. We didn't dedicate it to a specific project. Therefore, I call it savings. Now, we know for a fact that the enterprise is supposed to make money and does make money. It's one of the only enterprises we've got that makes money. Actually, both of them seem to make $1. So to say you don't have it in operations is to say that we're not intending to make any money in our operation.
Other discussion?
Yeah, Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I think this is a capital outlay project, and if I'm not mistaken, we have to spend a certain amount of money in capital outlay every year to stay within the state guidelines. And this isn't a maintenance problem, it's an improvement problem. So I think we have the money earmarked for this purpose. And we can't go on, because I think our general budget's going to get so tight this summer, if things don't change around, we aren't going to have the money at the end. And then how we can take out of the bonding when it's already been approved by the board to take out $250,000 for these infrastructure improvements. And it's an improvement, it's not an expense, it's an improvement. And I think if we deal it that way around, we're not going to have this.
Okay, I'm going to call for a vote. We have a motion on the floor to approve the $53,000 for the project, but that money would come from the operating budget as opposed to the bond money. Harry, yes or no?
No.
Greg?
No.
Bob?
Yes.
Neil?
No.
Chair votes no. Do I have any other motions in regard to the water?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman, that we approve the funding and take it out of the bond.
It's been moved that we approve the $53,000 necessary for the project and take it out of the bond money. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion to what we just had? Okay, go ahead and vote. Greg first.
Yes.
Bob?
No.
Neil?
Yes.
Harry?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Motion carries. Last item on the agenda, hauling of the biofluids. Jim?
Like I said, with this, the hauling, the lowest bid on it was, let me pull it up. I'm sorry. I'm sleeping here. The lowest bid to haul was through Hanson. He said he would haul it for the sum of $4,240, and the permitting from the dump fee would be $9,000. So we're looking at about $15,000 to haul off our biosolids.
Okay, I would entertain a motion on that issue.
I make a motion that we approve the hauling of the biosolids by Mr. Hanson.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, sorry, go ahead, Bob.
I'm sorry, there's confusion here.
Go ahead, Bob.
I'd like to make
And Donnie.
I'd like to talk on that just for a second. Now that is operations there. That's something that's going to be done, has been done in the past. This is absolutely operations. So this money should be coming from the operations of the facility. This is not an improvement or anything else. I would ask at this time to amend the motion to bring the funds from the operations side of that plant.
Greg, you made the motion. Are you okay with the amendment?
Yeah, I will be okay with that.
Harry, you seconded, I believe, or did you, Neil?
I did.
Harry, you did. Are you okay
I'm
with
okay with that. Yeah, it has to come up. I didn't think it was going to come out of the bonding anyhow.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't either.
You look at the old times. We're spending $8,000 to $10,000 monthly. This is $13,000, and you're not even. I mean, you're not 2 months worth of hauling it away before. So we're money ahead.
Okay, the motion has been amended. Donnie, you had something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I need to verify with you, Vaughn, on a backup detail within the budget. I know it was, Jim and I talked about this a while back, and I can't remember where we ended, Jim, but I think the original proposal was put in, and it was put into the bond because we were going to have to, we were looking at paying Veris to come out and do this at the time at that astronomical rate. We were able to do some things in-house and make it work operationally. But I think the capital project, the bond, if you can, maybe if you recall or you remember, we did set aside, I want to say roughly 18,000 in capital project to address the back end of this. I can't disagree with Bob or Greg in the motion that it is operational, and it probably should come if we can figure out a way to make that happen in the budget. I know the sewer budget is leaner than the water budget because of the costs that we incurred last year, but I would need a little more clarification on Yvonne's end on the capital project money that we set aside, if we put that aside for this purpose or not, I can't remember.
Mr. Chairman, one point.
Yeah, they put somewhere around 20,000 in the water capital improvement.
Yvonne, can you repeat?
Yeah. Yvonne, please repeat that. I was talking over you.
Oh, sorry. We did put about somewhere around 20,000 in the capital improvement fund for water for 2020.
Yeah, this would be sewer though.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to point out
Same.
that we are allowed to make a budget amendment.
If we need to.
If needed, we can adjust the budget with a budget amendment by vote of the board.
Okay, so we knew, let me get this straight. I'm not as sharp as some of you, but we knew this was coming up. We set aside money when we budgeted to take care of the issue. But we set it aside as a capital.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think this particular project was set aside in this budget. I think when me and Neil went there, I think it was a previous budget that it was set aside. All I'm saying is we have the ability, if they need the budget adjusted, we can do a budget amendment. Matter of fact, I'm going to bring this up during old business. So just a thought to the board, you can adjust the budget. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So right now, we have an amendment on the floor to go ahead and have the waste pumped and gotten rid of, not from the operational budget. If we approve it that way, we will either have to do it that way or amend the prior budget or the budget. Am I understanding all that correct?
No.
It's coming from the operational.
Coming from operations, just like if he orders a backhoe, it comes from the operations.
I do have one, sorry, Mr. Chairman, I do have one small comment or caveat. The dump fee assessment that is as close as I could get to it on an estimate without weighing everything. That is a per ton price of $33 a ton. And we estimated the tonnage that was sitting there. I don't have a scale available to me, but each person that I walked through in the bid, we all felt that very comfortable at a 300 ton weight is what we were dealing with. I just want to make sure that we're aware that if we come in at 310 tons, that it might be slightly over that 9,000 mark because we're based on the scales as it leaves, and Mother Nature's in play. If we get a big heavy rain, it's going to change the tonnage. But our hope is that we can utilize this dry period to get it out of here and save some money there. So we might even come in under that $9,000 dump fee.
Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. Bob?
Yes.
Neil?
Yes.
Harry?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Motion carries. All right, I think that is all of the agenda items. Let's move on to CCACC.
Okay, you have three requests for new builds. You have 4419 West Jefferson, which is a manufactured mobile home that they're looking at. I went out, I had Larry look at it. I know Harry went out and looked at it. This is right off of Jefferson. It's a weird shaped lot. It's actually a horse residence in the middle of Colorado City. I asked the lady if there is going to be a foundation under it. She said, yes, there is. There was a setback issue. I talked to her on it after Larry looked at it and I looked at it. There was a setback. It's supposed to be 25 feet and not, she had it at 17. She said she would make the adjustment on that aspect of it too. that she didn't realize where the street was. I said, well, I'm going from your property line to that first corner of your house, and it was at 17 and a half where it should be 25. Do you want to do them one by one, or do you want me to explain them?
One by one, please.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do them one by one.
All right, you have all the information in your packet as for that one. It is going to be a 1,580 square foot. The covenants requires 1,500 square foot on that. So she's within line of covenants. Wouldn't you say, Larry?
So, with verification of the setback being adjusted, did everything else meet covenant?
Bob.
He has a question.
Okay. As far as I know, the only thing is that she has on the application a HUD home.
Right. I have no problems with the terminology. My question to either Larry or Jim that reviewed the packet and the covenants is the zoning. What is the county zoning and what is the covenant zoning?
It is in our, like I said, from what I can gather from the old map and everything, it is a horse park property, which is...
I don't want to go by a map. I don't care about maps. Maps are wrong. What does the covenant say?
Let me grab it real quick. I'm sorry, I should have brought it.
Mr. Chairman, while he's grabbing the covenants, I did a little bit of research on this as well. This is, the question I have here is whether this is defined as a mobile home or not.
I can answer that one. In Pueblo County, a mobile home is a single wide home. A manufactured home is a home that must be assembled from more than one piece.
Yes, and this is a two piece. For this property, in the covenants, it is lot number 498. It is a ranch estates lot on R1.
R1. And R1's good with me as long as it's good with zoning.
Yeah.
So, the answer to my question was yes. If she moves the setbacks to the legal limits, she is within the covenant.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion on that particular? We'll vote on each one, I think.
So, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve this subject to her meeting the 25-foot setback requirement.
I'll second.
Greg, just a second. Greg, could I suggest you move subject to verification that she's moved to the 25?
Yes. Yes, subject to verification that she's moved to the 25-foot setback.
My second stands.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I still have more issues with this.
Okay, I'm sorry. Did I cut you off, Neil? I
No,
apologize.
this is fine anyway.
We just opened it up for discussion anyhow.
Discussion, right. We're just discussion. On the application, she actually has it marked as a mobile home. So when I looked at Title 17, Pueblo County, the mobile home was if it's transported in on wheels and is a complete unit that can still be put together. Also, the Title 17 requires any residence to have a permanent engineered foundation.
Correct.
This does not have a permanent engineered foundation. It has periods.
That's a permanent engineered foundation.
There's no engineering involved in this package. There's no soil engineering involved.
No, not soil.
Well, in order to have an engineered foundation, you have to have a soil test.
Not in Pueblo.
In Pueblo, I did.
I understand you did.
Okay, one at a time. So, Neil, you're suggesting that it doesn't meet county codes or covenant?
County code.
County code, okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
You may.
I know that I might get questioned by a couple directors here, but as far as I'm concerned, county code is county code. Covenants is our problem. And covenants does not deny them to build a manufactured home in this location. And as far as I'm understanding, this is not a mobile home. The double wide is being brought in 2 sections, which Bob is correct. I've dealt with this several times. That is considered a manufactured home. So at this point, I would call the question simply because we're just voting on covenants, not county. County's problem.
That's correct. I agree.
Mr. Chairman, one quick point.
Actually, the question's been called. I think we'll go with the vote.
Hold on, yeah, Bob had a comment.
We have to, it's a.
Okay, if it's, go ahead.
Just quick, Mr. Director Collins is totally correct. This is a Title 17 issue, and if myself or Neil or Mr. Collins is wrong, then Pueblo County will not issue a building permit. That's so it's all on them, and
Okay.
I agree to call the question.
Okay, Neil? Yea or nay?
Nay.
Chair votes yes. Harry?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
The CCACC has approved that project. Next one.
Next one, you have on lot 118, unit 5, Colorado Boulevard and Salida. You have a pole barn steel that they are looking at putting in. It is 2,400 square foot. You have everything within your packet. It has color trim. I know the color, it doesn't show it because I didn't put them in colors, but it shows what the walls colors will be, the roof and the trim. It is going to the person that lives there. They have a red brick house, so it's going to kind of resemble the house. There is many other pole barns on Colorado that are similar in this fashion.
Okay. Does it, to the best of your, as far as you can ascertain, does it meet all the codes?
Yes, it does. The setbacks were right. I went out and checked them personally, measured them. Everything is there. Larry, let me see if Larry had anything. Larry, can you
Yes.
hear me? Did you have anything on this one?
No, I looked at that whole neighborhood too, and it's going to end up similar to other structures that are already there. There's no match on the setback to any other property. It's on a street of its own. There's no other buildings on Salida. I saw nothing in the covenants that would restrict what they're doing.
Okay. Could I get a motion?
Can I make a statement?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
are we in discussion or motion mode?
We're looking for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the site on lot 118.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded that we approve lot 118, unit 5. Now discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak.
Go ahead.
I asked what the zoning of the property is under covenants and what the zoning is under Title 17. Also asking while he's looking at that, I'm sure the committee has already reviewed this. I'm just trying to confirm this before voting in way of zoning, but I'd also like to know if this is on the same lot the house is on or if it's multiple lots.
It is multiple lots that he had vacated. There is, if you look at in the packet, There is a lot that is in the middle of it that he does not own, but he can't put it where his house and stuff is. So that's why he had it vacated, and he's looking at.
Are the lots contiguous?
Yes, they are.
Thank you. And they've been vacated.
Yes, the lot lines have been vacated. And as for
The other question?
The zoning, we're waiting.
As
The zoning is R1.
It's an R1.
And this is a barn or an outbuilding, a garage?
It's basically a garage.
A garage. Mr. Chairman, I move, or it's already moved. I'm done. Thank you.
Yeah, any other discussion?
Yes, there's one in the audience.
What's the height of the building, and what do the covenants say about height?
With the R1, after talking to zoning on it, it is 34 feet. And the height on this thing is, let me pull up the architecture plan on it.
What does the IRC say?
This is, the height on it is going to be 20 foot
At the eve or at the peak?
at the peak, because it's a 12-floor roof, building front,
Okay, thank you.
and it's 16 at the eaves. So it's going to be right about 24.
All right, call the question. Chair votes yes. Bob?
Yes.
Neil?
Yes.
Harry?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Approved. Next property, 3158 Armstrong Court.
This one is the one that returned. He still was unable to give me the exact build of it because he cannot get the plans for it until he purchases the building. He wants to make sure that everything went through. Planning and zoning, he did have to have some of his plot changed. They did that. I also included with this the detached from Pueblo, the project routing slip for the detached garage, which was okayed by county zoning to do it, and he was within guidelines. As for any of covenants, there is no restriction allowing him not to do it. It is a building. Anymore, you're seeing a lot more metal-sided buildings in areas that they're there. It is going to be the same color of the house, which is white with the kind of bluish gray trim on it. It will match his house.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep, sir.
the board requires elevations in the packet. They do not have to be professional elevations. They could be simply hand-drawn. This man's refusing to turn in hand-drawn elevations. I would recommend we do not proceed until elevations are provided.
He did change it. He said the roof on it is a 1 in 12
what he says.
pitch. No, it's a 1 in 12 pitch. The eaves are at 12 foot. So with the building being as what it is, it's going to be right at 13 foot.
Yeah, but there's no elevations. There's no drawings.
Yeah, there was a drawing on that one.
Where's the
There was a
drawing?
drawing on that one. I call the question.
Let me see the drawing, please. Oh, you said there was no
Do you have a
drawing.
motion yet to approve this?
I make a motion to approve this when we delayed it for a month and a half. And it's there, it's 12-foot walls, and we had the drawing there a couple of times.
Yeah,
We were
there's
concerned about the color and how it blend in.
Let's verify that the drawings are.
Yes, there are.
So I make a motion, we approve the Armstrong property.
The drawing is with it.
Yes, it is.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Harry, how would you like to vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Neil?
Yes,
Chair votes yes. Property approved. Final one, 4756 Corona Verde Boulevard.
Sorry, when I copied this, it came out upside down, so. We have the one that was on unit 2, lot 182 last week. It's 4756 Corona Verde. It was originally 1,040 or something like that. She has made a new proposal to put in a basement, which would move her square footage up to 2,088 square feet. So it exceeds the 1,800 square foot. All the things have been put in the packet, the drawings for the basement itself, the house size, structure, color. She had that in there. Last packet I didn't put it in this. I was trying to save paper, I guess.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept that packet of 4756 Corona Verde Boulevard.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
second,
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Greg, how do you vote?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Neil?
yes,
Chair votes yes. Harry?
Yes.
Property approved. Jim, old business. Oh, wait a minute.
Well, I just put in there for reviews. I'm reviewing with the committee. I had 4 complaints, and like I said, I've gotten 3 other ones now that I will add for our meeting to review with the CCAC on Thursday after we get together, and we can look at all of these complaints and how we are going to go forward with them.
Okay. Let's go ahead, Jim, and move into old business.
Old business, I put in there, I know Bob asked last time about the ALS calculations. I was able to give a sheet there with the calculations that Yvonne had verbally put out last week and didn't have the information. I gave those in the packet as to what the percentages would be at this point in time as to where we are going forward with it. As for the gravel pit, I'm waiting a call from the engineer. One of the concerns when I did talk to the auditor, I don't know whether you did too, Terry, but I talked to Sam, and the biggest concern he had with the audit and where it's at is, are they back filling and reconditioning that pit? Because he doesn't feel that the money that they set aside, and we don't know where they came up with that number to do it, was right, or if it is enough to do it. So that's what I'm waiting for now, for the engineer to call me back and say that they are reclaiming the pit as they're going, so it's keeping up with the price that is bonded for it. That was the biggest concern. As for old business 2, we looked at the swimming pool. I talked to Pueblo West. They are not opening up theirs this year. As for Pueblo, I still haven't got a call from Mr. Gradishar whether they have decided or not to open theirs. They still are in limbo themselves, waiting for a choice. So that's where I'm at with old business so far.
Any questions or comments on any of those 3 items?
Well, do we need to make a motion on the swimming pool, whether it's open or closed?
I believe all we need to do is let it ride until somebody feels so led to make a motion.
I mean, okay, I'm thinking down the road, when would the pool close normally?
It's
At the end of August?
Usually the week before school starts. And I don't know when school's going to start next year.
Okay.
It may
It's
not.
usually the first week of August.
Pardon?
Usually, Josh said the first week of August usually.
I mean, that's a lot of expense. It's a lot of expense to fill that thing up with water for a short period of time. I'd almost make a motion that we don't open the swimming pool this year.
And I would second that motion.
So Harry, I'd almost make a motion count as you make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we don't open the swimming pool this year because we don't know what we can even get close to social distancing. And I'd like to hug you when we're swimming.
Okay.
Don't put that in the motion, though.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Josh, do you have any strong inclination either way how you feel about it?
I don't. I think it's probably the right choice. I feel bad for a lot of the high school kids who use that as a summer job during the summer and the swimming lessons that we do, but I don't think we have another option.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
The reason why I seconded Harry's motion and it should be closed is as everybody knows, I have a tribe of kids, and my wife would not let them go this summer. She's quite frankly said that out loud. So I feel like there's a lot of other people that are probably in the same boat. So if we do fill the pool, I don't guess having anywhere near the attendance that we have in the past.
Other discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I don't know that we need to do this yet. I mean, can't we put this off for a little longer time? That's all I have.
Okay. We could do that if the motion does not pass.
Yeah, Bob.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
the cost of the water is minimal. You're looking at like $3,500 for water. The cost seems to be from heating and other things. So the cost of water is minimal to fill that swimming pool. If the South Park can fill their swimming pool, we can fill our swimming pool. It's nothing. They buy water from us at different rates. So it's not the cost of water. I personally think that the swimming pool should be open. I doubt I would use it. I use it about once every 3 years. This is a good year, so I might use it. But if the pool's open, I think it should be open. Again, I go back to some of this closing stuff is pretty much unconstitutional, but that's a different argument for a different day. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Any other comments before we vote? Okay, we have a motion on the floor to not open the swimming pool this year. Bob,
No.
you vote for that or against it? I'm sorry.
Against.
Okay, no.
No.
Neil? Neil?
No,
No. Chair votes yes. Harry?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Motion carries. Any other old business? Dorothy, any other discussion?
Nothing else on the agenda, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I have old business.
Okay.
First off, I want to go back to the budget amendment. Already had it on my notes to discuss under old business. We've talked about this in the past a number of times. One of the things we talked about was the AOS fees and depreciation. I've seen no recommendation from the finance or management on depreciation for the water filters or the golf carts that's been purchased in this year. That's a drastic depreciation that needs to be taken. We're halfway through the year. We need to look at a budget amendment to cover this. If you do not, we get caught in the hole again. Also, grants for water and sewer. I think some research needs to be done by someone. I'm quite busy, but we have people on staff that look at these things. We need to try to find some grants to cover some of these upgrades and fixes we're doing, or better yet, a complete renewal of the system. Possibly talking to state legislators or feds about completely rebuilding our water and sewer infrastructure. Also, I would like to get an update on the jetting project that was discussed about using temporary people. And one last thing down here, we were talking about some contracts and stuff and verbiage and stuff. When it talks about different liabilities and stuff and percentages, generally most of our contracts talk about responsibility. So when we have questions, for instance, this is more pointed at the gravel pit. There's a contract on that gravel pit. I've seen it in the past. And part of that contract speaks to, I don't have the exact verbiage here, but the auditor had concerns, and I think that somehow we need to point out to the auditor that the contract itself carries a perpetual, we will take care of the mitigation.
Okay. Have you rediscussed these items with Jim?
I've discussed these over the past year with Jim and Jovan, and I've discussed them previous to Jim.
Okay. My question being, what can the time of the board do on these items tonight?
Well, I don't see the board making any motions to take care of some of these tonight, but this really needs to be looked at. This is old business. I do see the AOS update here. As a matter of fact, I'm prepared to make a motion on this update as soon as I finish this. I just wanted to point out under old business, because all of these items are old business, that we need to look at a few more things. My phone is on. People can call me. What do you think, Bob? I have made offers to all board members to sit down and have tea with me. Two of the other board members have. Two have decided over the past 2 years to not take me up on that. So there are things that can be discussed one-on-one. I'm not asking for a board meeting, but to get an understanding of what I'm trying to accomplish by asking for old letter, by talking about the budget and things like that.
Okay.
One of the things, Bob, before you do that, we are scheduling our audit for, I believe, Yvonne, what is it, 2 weeks? Or is it next week? Yvonne, are you there?
I don't see
Yvonne,
her on screen.
there she is. She just unmuted.
Yes.
Our audit is scheduled for when?
I think it's at any time.
Okay. One of the things
they're
that
going to do it remote to begin with, and they will be on site as needed.
Okay. One of the things that we had was we were still unsure with the roads where it stood. Sam was supposed to come in and show us if it was payback or not. So that's why I don't want to really set those figures now and accept them as an AOS.
I'm not talking about that. That's fine. I understand that.
I want to make sure that our figures are right and where we need to go.
I have no problem with that, but I'm going to make a separate motion on that. What I'm talking about, if you're fixing to talk to the auditor, you need to get this contract out with the county and point out the verbiage where they are responsible for this mitigation. Because until he can understand that, we are on the hook for that $100,000 that he's got on the book every year. Now, as a last piece, Mr. Chairman, this AOS fees, we have a percentage in front of us. I've received the document. I'm sure it's in all the packets. The sewer and water has a proposed percentage that is required when we start into the budget. It was actually required last year. We need from management, a resolution to set the percentage. I know we're not doing that tonight, but we do need to get that resolution done so that it can be put into the system as we move forward.
Okay, let me interrupt a minute, Bob. Yvonne has her hand up. She may have something to say. Yvonne? Maybe she doesn't.
No, she had her hand up.
Yeah. Yvonne? Could have been a wild mouse. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we are.
Per the state statute, it is supposed to be set at the time of the budget.
Correct. And we didn't have it ready for the last budget. What I'm saying is, all we want to do is make sure that that resolution gets put in the pipeline so it doesn't get skipped this year.
Okay.
Agreed.
Any other old business? Okay, I don't see any new business. Any correspondence?
You did get a letter, Harry, on one of the complaints. When I see you, I will give it to you. It is one that I'm taking to the committee too, so you'll have it when I see you tomorrow.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have one last little thing that I needed an update on, was the Pausick situation. What's the update?
The update on it, he hasn't done anything.
Thank
So
you.
he's got until July 1st.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. There's no other business. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Motion carries. Have a nice evening, guys.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.